Hello, awesome people. I hope you're having an amazing day today. Today we're taking a look at the short story by Shirley Jackson called Louisa, Please Come Home, which I loved. And this short story convinced me to do a review of this collection, even though this collection hasn't so far been anything in the horror genre. Shirley Jackson is one of the most beloved figures in horror. So when I came across a Penguin Classics collection that was published in 2017 called Dark Tales, I picked it up about 4 or 5 months ago from Amazon, which I'll link you to in the comments below. Here's my copy. I'm now 2 short stories into. And the first short story that I've already reviewed for you isn't a horror short story, so I didn't review it immediately. And I waited. The second short story, it's about 18 pages long. It took me about 40 minutes for me to knock it out last night. Actually, probably a little less. And I loved this short story. I'm going to be giving it an 8 out of 10. And so after I read it, I'm like, oh, I got to bring this stuff to people's attention. So we're going to be doing this deep dive into Shirley Jackson, even though I thought that a collection called, Dark Tales by Penguin Classics by a horror writer would probably be, horror short stories. So hopefully we'll get into that here in a little bit. Just as a reminder, I have done stories here and there by writers that are big known for the 3 genres that I care about: fantasy, science fiction, and horror. And I have done reviews here and there, but hasn't been a big thing. For example, I did a few short stories by Robert E. Howard in his boxing world, which obviously boxing short stories wouldn't count. I also did a couple of short stories in the, one in the Solomon Kane stuff series called The Blue Flame of Vengeance that I've reviewed for you too, that didn't have any short stories, any elements rather of fantasy, science fiction, or horror that I care about, but was still, a big major pulp character who's been in made it to cinema, comics, and that sort of a thing from Robert E. Howard's pen. And Robert E. Howard is one of the most influential authors in fantasy of all time. He's also done some horror too, so he's a big name, in the genres that I care about, right? So I felt at that, doing some Robert E. Howard stuff. So I think that Shirley Jackson, a big name in horror, doing some Shirley Jackson stuff that's not in the horror genre specifically, I think that's fine. It'd be the same thing as doing some of those novels written by Stephen King that weren't in the horror genre, that also aren't, science fiction or fantasy, like The Gunslinger. I think that would be fine too. I don't think anybody would be that upset, right, if I did The Blue Mile or something like that by Stephen King. So I don't think I'd get a whole lot of people that would be out there and be like, oh, what are you doing if I did it? So I think Shirley Jackson is probably fair. But the key concepts of this short story, about 18 pages long, I'm giving it an 8-2. I gave the first one a 6-2. It never really gripped me. It took me a few pages to get into it, but this thing was up from the front. I was in. I had planned to read this short story in 2 bites, one in the bathtub, and one sitting down after I left the bath, because I like to read in the bathtub. But I also gripped that I didn't even notice. I just read it all in the bathtub. So I knocked it out in just one sitting, which is nice. And a good comment as to how gripping this short story is. The key concepts of this short story that are happening is that we have somebody who's been kidnapped by a lot of believed by the people, but she's actually super secretly run away. She's in college. And so that's the key figure of Louisa, Please Come Home. And we'll find out what happens and why she left, why she ran away, and so forth. But again, the folks, a lot of folks in the news media are reporting on her, and so forth. So we'll do a deep dive into why she ran away and what she's been doing since she's been running away, and the first few days of her running away, and that sort of thing, right? And then we'll come right to it. It has a nice trick ending that I did not predict, and it was definitely something that I think definitely elevates the short story in my mind. So this was a gripping short story by one of the classics out there, Shirley Jackson. So I'm giving this an 8 out of 10. It was really strong. Definitely well worth your time. So there you are. That's Shirley Jackson's Louisa, Please Come Home. Have you read it? What'd you think of it? Again, I try to keep my reviews spoiler-free, so I only give you the basic sort of things that are happening in the first couple of pages that you find out. I kept the rest of it review spoiler-free. If you want to talk about spoilers, hey, let's talk about them in the comments below. I'd be happy to do that with you. If you enjoyed this video, please feel encouraged to hit that subscribe button. There's going to be a lot more of these to follow. And then finally, I want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and investing it and watching my video. We all have so many things that are happening in our lives, and we're pulled in so many different directions. So I appreciate the time that you took out of your video to invest in my time. Have a great day again.